Hi, neighbors. Happy Tuesday night. Sorry, let me get a little bit set up better there. It is Tuesday, October 28th at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. It's always nice when people watch my videos. Thank you. Thank you for caring about our community. Tonight, I want to discuss how we can support our police officers and support their judgment and give them some teeth, so to speak, in small crimes that sometimes need to go overlooked. So, how we can do this without overburdening our prosecutor's office. Let me grab my notes too. I want to start by saying I've had an opportunity over the past few months to start to get to know our amazing prosecutor here in St. Joe County, Deborah Davis. I really, really like her. She's wicked smart. She has fantastic intuition and she understands budget constraints and she wants to do the most she can with the money that she has. I commented on my Facebook post about this video that I recently found out that the prosecutor's budget is about half of the county parks budget. And that just, as much as I love our county parks, believe me, I do. I spend a lot of time outside. One of the reasons I love living in Three Rivers is because of all of the outdoor recreational activities that we have and the beautiful, beautiful places. But I think we should be safe first. So I've got my trusty notes in one hand and my computer in the other. I'm going to try not to just look down at my screen the whole time as I essentially read you the things I've written over the past few days. And it seems that playing outside with my dog got me some leaves in my hair. Well, I always try to tell you guys, I'm just a neighbor. I'm not perfect. I am unvarnished. My hair is kind of a mess today. It's been a busy day. I had acupuncture and had 22 needles in my body just a couple hours ago and came home and played with my dog because I love her. I actually brought her with, but she needed some good lovin's too. And I got leaves and twigs in my hair. And here I am talking to you guys. So again, we have a really fantastic prosecutor, and I want to get to know her much better and be a partner with her to try to sort out the problems that we have here in Three Rivers. About 12 or 13 years ago, it was while I lived downtown, I had an experience I'll never forget. There was a woman outside when I was walking my late dogs, my great Gabby and Gracie, who passed away. But I was walking them, and this woman was over the top intoxicated, falling down. She, at one point, just literally could not keep herself upright. It was winter, there was snow, it was icy, and she was standing outside of Paisanos and had clearly been massively overserved. Like, I was very afraid that she might, like, crack her head open and bleed out on the street. This wasn't me being upset that somebody was drunk. Heck, I've been stupid myself, but this was like, "Oh my goodness, we have to help this woman who is out of her mind intoxicated." And she, like I said, she was barking like a dog. I think I mentioned that. I know I did in the other video where I discussed it. And I called the police, and a couple officers showed up, and they were basically like, "Look, unless she gets in a car, there's nothing we can do about it." I'm like, "You can see she's wasted, right?" And they're like, "Yep, sure can." I'm like, "What about public intoxication rules? Like, what have we got here?" They're like, "Yep, we don't really have that kind of stuff here." He's like, "I'd get in trouble if I brought this woman in." And I clarified, I said, "Listen, I'm not saying, like, prosecute her, put her in jail or something, but, like, can't we take care of her? Isn't there, like, a place we could send somebody like Otis?" I don't know if you're old enough to catch the Otis. It was, from Andy Griffith. Otis was a drunk who came and locked himself in the slammer every weekend when he would get intoxicated. These gentlemen were definitely old enough to catch the reference. And basically they said, "No, there's really not." So while the programs I'm talking about tonight wouldn't necessarily apply to someone like this woman, the interaction I had with that officer that night, where he explained to me that at that time, and again, this was like 12 years ago, so this is not a critique of Deborah Davis in any way, shape, or form. But at the time, our prosecutor, he said, he's only interested in the cases that'll get him on TV. So that seems to have been at least the attitude at the time. Now we've got a fantastic prosecutor who wants to go out there and do as much as she possibly can, but she's really constrained with her resources. So, I mean, her budget is essentially salaries and some office supplies, and she's made cuts everywhere she can, and she's done her best, and we're still coming up short. So I've still heard, and I'll be less specific now because that was 12 years ago and I can't get anybody in trouble, but I've heard several of the same types of comments from current officers and ones who have recently left our department. So what can we do to hold people accountable especially for really low level crimes, things like vandalism, petty theft, little things that need attention and can dramatically change the way a neighborhood feels and your just day-to-day safety without having to burden the prosecutor's office. Those are the things I want to talk about tonight. So let's think about small infractions, things like disorderly conduct, public intoxication, curfew violations. Honestly, I don't have kids. Do we even have curfews here in Three Rivers for our youngsters? I don't know. They had them when I was a kid. My curfew was before the legal curfews anyway, I think. So, well, actually, at some point, I think my mom let me stay out till at least the legal curfews. But again, things like vandalism, shoplifting, things like that. So if we can focus on stopping the small stuff and we can get kids and young folks on the straight and narrow early on without giving them a police record and without getting them into the system, which is just never good. I'm not in favor of giving young people criminal records for stupid things they do when they're young, but I am in favor of holding them accountable. So if we can find a way to do this and to meet those goals, I think we'll be a better community for it, and I think we'll have less crime down the road. This is not an overnight solution. None of the things I'm going to propose tonight can happen overnight. This is not a switch I can flip. As soon as I'm elected, not a thing. We'll have to raise money and all kinds of stuff that I'll get into in a minute. But some of the things we can do would be put in penalties like community service. And I mean real community service where people actually get to know their neighbors. Also, restorative justice. For example, if someone were to vandalize property, spray paint it or something like that, they should have to clean it up. And I think those kind of interactions where if you do that bad thing and then you fix that bad thing, I think that can restore a person's soul. I read somewhere, it was just a meme online, I don't know if it's true, but that there's some tribe somewhere where when someone does something bad, everybody gathers around them and tells them all the great things about themselves. And I think we could have an element of this where, if somebody were to say vandalize my house and they had to come over and clean it, while they're cleaning it, I could say, wow, you're doing a really good job at that. I'm really glad that you're taking care of your mistake. I'm really glad that you're being held accountable and that you're going to learn something from this. Wow, again, nice job. Thank you. I'm really glad that you took care of this. Everybody makes mistakes. And, I can see that you're learning from this one, to come at it with a positive viewpoint and try to build kids up and young people up rather than tear them down. And I guess I shouldn't limit this just to young people. I just hope, against hope, that the people who are committing these little crimes are young people whose frontal lobes just haven't fully loaded yet. Sure, there are going to be adults, but you know what? A lot of people didn't get hugged enough as a kid. Plain and simple. I mean, I don't think anybody gets hugged enough as a kid, but a lot of folks didn't get built up. They didn't hear good job enough when they were growing up to feel good about themselves. And we can do that as a community. Why not? We can even do that in a situation like this where somebody's done something wrong. Let's point out every great thing about somebody and help build them up from the inside. So I come from a community called Lansing, Illinois, and we had the best police officers anybody could ever ask for. And my friends and I were really well known, not in a bad way. My mom went to high school with most of the officers who were, on duty when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. And I was always taught, oh, wave at officer friendly. And I would, even as just a little girl, I would wave and they would, if they had a minute, they might pull over and they'd say, well, hello, little girl, if they didn't know my name, or they'd address me by name if they did. And again, a lot of them knew my mom. And, they'd say, well, how are you today? And, maybe what did you learn in school today? Or they'd ask me a little question and they'd always leave me with something silly like, make sure to eat your vegetables or, you make sure to listen to your mom. When I was really little, they'd say, now, do you know my phone number? I'd say 911. And they'd say, okay, now when's it okay to call that phone number? And we'd just have this little back and forth chat where I grew up knowing that I could trust and rely on those officers and that if anything terrible happened, they were going to come and save me. And I think of some stupid things I did as a kid because I was a teenager too. And I think of the things I didn't do because I knew I wasn't going to get caught by those guys because they were going to rip me a new one and they were going to tell my mom. So, but I can think of a story that at some point I might tell the full story, but where two really good friends of mine who are good, good people got themselves into a little bit of trouble. They were hanging out with somebody they shouldn't have, and that guy got in big trouble. And our officers who knew us drove my friends around the block, let them think they were being really arrested and like hauled off to jail when they were, 16, 17 years old. And they said, "What the hell's wrong with you? You guys are better kids than this. Come on, what are you hanging out with this jerk for? You want to get yourself in trouble? You really want to go to jail one day? Come on, you're better than this." And they scared the daylights out of them. And they also gave them a pep talk at the same time. I'd like to set our officers up so that they can do that too. And where they're not just, taking somebody in to let them go and have there be no consequences. Granted, my two friends got off essentially scot-free, but one is a soccer mom. Her youngest is in high school now, is a senior. He just got accepted when he graduates to be a firefighter in her town. Her older two are fantastic. The other one is like a regional manager for his company. He's been married. They've both been married for like 25 years. They turned out to be wonderful people because they got the crap scared out of them when they were kids and they did something stupid. So I'd love to see some community policing like that. But we can, again, start with folks who, in a sense, are only doing bad things because they haven't been built up the right way. We can hold them accountable and we can find ways to build them up. So what the programs I'm about to discuss would not be for, and that would be for violence, things with weapons, anything violent. I'm not playing around with violence. If you commit violence, you should go have to see the prosecutor. So what can we do as a community? We can identify crimes that we could take care of via ordinances. Again, these are some of the things that I named before, things like disorderly conduct, public intoxication, curfew, petty theft, vandalism, ordinance violations even. I would love to see people take care of their property and just get a warning and go ahead and take care of things when they do. There's a lovely family about to move in to a house here in town this month. And we both thought that the house next door was abandoned because there's so much trash around it. It's not. I was over there recently and saw that there are folks living there. I would like to see those people encouraged to clean up the trash around their house so they're not drawing rodents. This lovely new family is really happy that they have cats because they're basically expecting that the house they just bought, which is currently empty, might have a rodent problem when they move in, and nobody should move to our town and have that be the first thing they have to worry about. So a program like this could be, I keep talking about the carrot or the stick. Let's give people a carrot, of course, and try to, encourage them to maintain their homes and maintain our ordinances. But if they don't, we can let them know, hey, we've got this next step if we have to use it, where, you either have these options of taking care of things and then doing a little paying it forward by, say, cleaning up trash somewhere else, or, we're going to have to escalate. Most people are going to choose not to escalate. So what we could do is, again, identify crimes. I probably haven't thought of them all. I think if we talk to our police officers, they'll tell me a whole lot more. We can adopt new ordinances to cover these types of things so that we have some framework in store to use. And we can use our city attorney. When I look at city salaries, the attorney's not there. So, we're paying him separately. He's not just fully on staff, I don't believe. If I'm wrong, God, I hope I'm wrong, and that we just do have a full-time city attorney, but I don't believe that's the case. We probably don't need somebody full-time, but I think that we're probably paying too much and getting too little. That's my guess. If it's anything else like almost any other government, I'm not even picking on Three Rivers specifically here, but that's probably what we've got. So, and then we can look at restorative justice processes and groups and programs from other places. I found some great examples in Kalamazoo. And also here in St. Joe County, we have, what's it called again? I'm so sorry. It's goodness. We have a court program, but it's for higher level issues than this. And it reduces recidivism and what's it called? Community corrections. And it looks like a great program. It's got a huge board. There are tons of people on it. Mayor Lowry's on that board, lots of other people, judges, the prosecutor, lots of names I recognized. So it's active. They're doing some things, but that's just for bigger issues than what I'm talking about. So what kind of partnerships would we need? Obviously, the courts and our prosecutor. This is in no way, shape, or form to step on her authority. This is to, to find a way to hold people accountable for lower level things that shouldn't have to really go to court. And for things where folks don't need a criminal record to come out of it. We might want to look at community health, mental health agencies, social services, housing, and something else that this gives us the opportunity to do. Of course, our police officers. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that first. But what this gives us the opportunity to do is to look for the root cause of the problem. Why is this person acting out in this way? What is it they needed that they didn't get? What is it, if it's a youngster, is it because, their single mom is working two jobs and can't be home with them in the evening? Maybe we can use these root cause analyses to determine what our next steps as a city are, rather than, say, a master plan that nobody really does the survey for. If you haven't done the survey, I'm not even sure if it's still open, but it was for quite some time. It just didn't get a lot of advertising. And, we're making decisions based on the opinion of just a few hundred people. And it seems like in that context, we're coming up with a lot of wants and not a lot of needs. And that's my opinion. And I think that the Planning Commission did a great job. They're doing their best. This is not a critique of them. I actually went and sat down with them very briefly at one of their meetings and, thanked them for their work. I know that being on a board is often a thankless job. And I'm sure they're doing their darndest and they're spending their own time to make our community better. So I don't want to, belittle what they've done, but this is just a different direction we can go. What's the hardest part of this going to be? Funding. Of course, funding is always hard, but there are other problem-solving courts. Cass County, for example, funded $536,000 through grants. That's $500,000. The estimates I have here say we could start this program for about 50 to 60,000, and that's a very small start to a program. But yes, we could probably do that. If we look at, again, at our grants, I don't think we're utilizing our grant writer to the fullest. The next hardest thing is going to be partnerships. We're not Kalamazoo. We don't have, a million nonprofits and agencies at the ready to help us out here, but we have some. And the ones that we do have are amazing and bust their butts. And everybody involved is doing the very, very, very best that they can. And they are producing some really fantastic results. This could be a way to help. Also, just a little side note here. I was talking with someone when I was out knocking doors, and she was just peppering me with questions. And she didn't really want to hear my answers. I think she really just wanted to pepper me with questions. But one of the things that she got me thinking about was how it seems as though we have a lot of nonprofits and a lot of agencies that are duplicating work. And what I think we should do is gather everybody together, have a summit. I've said this before, and try to get everybody in their niche. My example is that when I worked for the Social Security Administration for a very brief time, there was one agency here in our county that I know is wonderful and transforms people's lives, but they continued to send in the same wrong information to help people get their Social Security cards. And I said to my boss, oh goodness, I got this from this place in my county. And he's like, yeah, just throw it away. There's nothing we can do about it. I said, well, did anybody call them? What do you mean? I said, did anybody call and let them know that these are the requirements, not that? They said no. And I'm like, do you mind if I get on the phone? Can I do this? And he was like, oh, I guess. So I did. So hopefully, they were able to change things up. But there's another agency that's really good at helping people get Social Security cards and IDs, and they don't make that mistake. So if we can get everybody in the same room and say, okay, you're good at IDs, great. Can you really focus on that? And then if this agency gets somebody who needs an ID, they forward them that way. There's no reason to duplicate work. Let's all hold hands. Let's all be friends. And I don't think it's that these agencies don't want to work with each other. I'm sure they absolutely do. But without a centralized way to do that, they're all at a loss. And that's something that our city could absolutely do. So how do we do it? What's a quick plan? It's not a quick plan, but it's a quick explanation of a plan. We start with our police officers, our code enforcement, and our city attorney, and we empower them to determine which infractions and which issues qualify for whatever we could potentially call this program. It would have to be voluntary. We can't force anybody into it, and they would have to agree to accept the decision. But again, this might keep somebody from potentially getting a criminal record. We make sure we have a really good restorative justice component so that it doesn't just make people feel like we're being soft on crime, because that's not my goal here. My goal is actually to help people understand that when they do bad things, they have to correct them. And we figure out how to supervise it. We make sure that we keep all of our ducks in a row. We make sure that our program coordinator keeps really good records so we can renew our grants every year. And we do the best we can. And then potentially we achieve our ultimate goal, which is accountability and no criminal record and no entrance into the prosecutor's office. So I know that's a lot to take in. It's taken me about 2 weeks to sit through this and do this research and compile some ideas. And I actually have sample ordinances. Um, I would release that to you guys, but I definitely want to go over this, really sit down with the charter and make sure that everything works, and to sit down with people much smarter than me, like our amazing prosecutor, Deborah Davis, and see what she thinks of it. She is fantastic. She's very accessible, and I trust her. And I feel really good about the fact that I trust our prosecutor. So thank you for watching. I'm going to cut this off. It's already been 20 minutes. But if you want to see restorative justice in this town, we can do it. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But you know what? We can do hard things if we do them together. So thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody has a great night, and I hope you put your thinking cap on and try to figure out some ways to help this program, or some ideas, some things that I didn't cover, things that didn't occur to me because I'm just one person. And I need you guys to help make this community even more amazing than it already is. Now, final pitch. It is October 28th. We have 2 great chances to vote coming up. On Saturday, November 1st, you can vote via absentee at City Hall between 8 and 4. And of course, Election Day, go to Riverside Church between 7 in the morning and 8 p.m. and cast your ballot. So remember, this is the kind of election where just a handful of votes can make a big difference. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of you, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. I hope I've earned your vote. Have a great night.